Did you know that the Nazis may have had a moon base? Or that maybe the United States never actually made it there at all? I'm Bob, and join me as I reveal 8 crazy claims about our moon. Number 8. The moon is made out of cheese. Now this is an odd one to start with for sure, but come on, it's a classic. Kids for generations have been told in jest that the moon was actually made out of cheese, and yes, while it is ridiculous to think about now, after we've gone to the moon multiple times and even gotten some moon rocks out of the deal, it was a plausible theory of sorts. Now, yeah, it was basically common sense that the moon is not made out of cheese, but think about it from the perspective of a person who looked up at the moon before 1969, that's when the first man landed on the moon, by the way, and wondered, what's it feel like up there? Now, we had no idea what the moon was actually made out of, and that's what made the idea of it being made out of cheese so fun and appealing. We didn't know what it was, so it could be anything. Some people even thought it was green cheese, or even young cheese, or delicious cream cheese. Now, once we did get to the moon, we discovered it truly was a rock-like substance, which isn't soft at all, and it's also the reason that we can see the moon, because it's highly reflective and the sun's rays bounce off of the rock-like substance, and that's why we get a bright full moon at night. Now, I don't know about you, but if you have children, you're definitely going to want to tell them that the moon is made out of cheese at least once, if not more. Number 7. The moon transforms you. The moon has fascinated humanity for thousands of years. One of the most curious things about it is its phases. Because the moon revolves around the Earth, and takes about 30 days to do so, and the Earth revolves around the sun, the light that reaches the moon doesn't always reflect off its whole body. So that's why we have a new moon, a first quarter, a crescent, and so on. Anyway, because of these phases, people have put all kinds of folklore into it, not the least of which is the oddities that happen when a full moon arises. The most prevalent of these claims is that if a full moon is out, people, and sometimes wolves, will turn into werewolves, which naturally has been used in television, movies, video games, and all kinds of other culture and media that you can think of. Now, it's a great effect to be fair, but that's not the only thing that the full moon is associated with. Many have felt over the years that the full moon does something to their minds. We're talking about things like being more violent than usual, or having fits and sleepwalking, having a desire to commit a crime, or at its worst, murder and suicide. Number 6. The Nazis had a moon base. Now, this one is kind of crazy ironic because of recent media, but there was actually a rumor during World War II that Hitler had somehow, some way, gotten a full-blown military base on the moon. There were even documented cases of Nazis finding UFOs in the Himalayas and using them to build this said base. Then, when the end of the war came and Hitler faked his own death, that's when he fled to the moon, because that was the only place that was safe for him. The reason this is ironic is because of the video game Wolfenstein: The New Order, which displayed an alternate universe where the Nazis actually won World War II, and in that game, they had a moon base. Art imitating life, am I right? Number 5. The moon makes you have babies. But before you go procreating, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'd love to bring you more awesome videos like this one in the future. Now, it's not exactly what I mean by the moon making you have babies, so get your mind out of the gutter, you sicko. What I'm trying to say is that in many cultures and civilizations, the moon and its phases are associated with fertility in women. and only during certain phases could a woman actually become pregnant. Now, an interesting fact that is 100% true is that the lunar cycle and the menstrual cycle within women are usually about the same length, around 30 days. So no doubt someone saw that and then seemingly tied it to the moon, or in some cases, the deities of the moon. As a mythbuster once said, anything that isn't science is God. Which is poetic because many moon deities from various cultures all over the world are actually women, including Artemis from the Greeks, Luna from the Romans, there's even a Chinese goddess, and Mama Quilla of the Incas. Now, is this all a giant coincidence? Well, perhaps, but also perhaps not. Number 4, the moon is both weird and actually perfect. Our moon is the 5th largest in our solar system, and the 4 that come before it, well, they all belong to gas giants. Now, as far as distance and size, the sun has a diameter that's 400 times bigger than the moon, and the moon is 400 times farther away from the sun than it is to the Earth. Because of this, a solar and lunar eclipse can happen. That's oddly perfect. Even more, if the moon was any bigger or smaller, the eclipse actually couldn't take place. Now, to our knowledge, there's no other moon or sun combination in our solar system that can perform this action, which is a pretty big coincidence, right? Or maybe not. Adding to the weirdness and perfection, without our moon exactly where it is, the Earth wouldn't be able to survive. The moon controls our tides, helps with the changing of the seasons, and a whole lot more. And if it wasn't there, we'd all be screwed. So next time you look up at the moon, be grateful for it and blow it a kiss. Number 3, is there something actually on the moon? In 1969, the world would rejoice, well, most of the world, when the Apollo 11 spacecraft landed on the moon. 3 men had done what an entire planet had always dreamed of, venturing into the stars and making it to the place that we look at almost every night. However, both before and after Apollo 11, a question was put into place and spread in people's minds. Was there actually something living on the moon? Now, while it does sound like an epic conspiracy theory, which is par for the course, there's some evidence to back up the notion. While the Apollo 11 was getting to the moon, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, the 2 who would eventually touch down, saw what they defined as flicker flashes, odd lights that appeared on the moon but didn't really make a whole lot of sense at the time. Adding to that claim is that NASA has a book that chronicles similar odd phenomena on the moon, some of which dates back centuries. Now, during the same mission, a ham radio operator claimed that Aldrin and Armstrong radioed mission control to warn them that an alien spacecraft was spotted, and that aliens were watching them as they were setting up their presence on the moon. And if that's still not enough for you, in 2016, a video of the moon showed a dark object moving across its lunar landscape. So for centuries, and especially in the last 50 or so years, something may be going on with the moon. We just don't know what it is yet. Number 2, the moon is a ship, or an egg. Another really outlandish theory, but one that's been told more often than you may think, the moon has been portrayed in television and movies and books as a space vessel or even an egg from a living being. Now, perhaps one of the more famous examples of this is the H.G. Wells book, The First Men in the Moon, where the moon is hollow and inhabited by aliens. This book has been an inspiration to many to think along those similar lines. However, science does have a solid backhand to the theory. Because of how the moon orbits the Earth and has its own gravity, it wouldn't actually be able to sustain itself if it were hollow. Now, as for the egg theory, some people feel that because of its proximity to Earth, it's actually an egg of some sorts, and within it, a massive creature waiting to be born. Now, that would actually line up with the scientific theory that the moon's density is the way that it is, as there would be something inside of it. But what's actually in it? Well, if you believe in Game of Thrones, it's a dragon, and there used to be more than one moon, but that one hatched and the dragon flew away. In the Doctor Who episode, Kill the Moon, it was an alien, one that threatened the Earth as it was hatching. But the Doctor's companion refused to kill it, and because she didn't, the Earth was saved, and another egg was left after the creature hatched. Again, all of it is crazy, even by this list of standards, but I mean, it could be the egg of a turtle that used to carry the Earth on its back, right? I mean, what do you think the moon is made of and what's inside of it? Are any of these theories plausible? Let me know in the comments below. And now number 1, the moon landing hoax. The all-time greatest moon claim has to be that the 1969 NASA moon landing never, ever happened. Today, even 20% of Americans, and a whole bunch of other people around the world, believe that the moon landing was actually faked. Now, the big question here is, why? Well, many would see the evidence of the moon landing and began to ask questions. Questions that built and built and built until many began to believe that it was a hoax. What's more, the timing of the event was during the space race of the Cold War. The United States was desperate to beat the Russians and Soviets to the moon, and what better way to declare their victory than to pretend you did it? But how? Well, our radar and long-range sensors at the time were only so powerful, so no one would actually be able to detect that a craft had landed on the moon. Even more so, all NASA would have to do is launch a spacecraft, which thankfully people acknowledge we did launch a spacecraft, and then wait the estimated amount of days to make it to the moon, then shoot the rest of the landing on a set and broadcast it to the world. No one had ever been to the moon, so what did they even know? Now, despite this being debunked, including on an entire episode of Mythbusters, which they proved not just the 1969 moon landing, but also subsequent landings, people still actually believe in the hoax. And to be honest, until they go to the moon themselves, they'll likely never stop. Thanks for watching. Do you have any fun beliefs that you were told about the moon as a child? And what do you believe today? Let me know all about it in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Or maybe I'll just go to the moon.